Now, when it comes to uniform,
Mm-hmm.
I've done a podcast episode on uniform and what we have to do in schools because, of course, we have our hierarchy, so to speak. So we have our senior leaders that say to us that if a student walks down the corridor, make sure you dress their uniform, but do it in a non-confrontational way. You can do it non-verbally, just because we don't want to then ignite something
Yeah.
and start escalating something. So in terms of the primary school, yeah, of course, we shouldn't be saying to a student, what's wrong with that uniform? What are you doing there? No, you need to sort your uniform out. That's the wrong way to approach the situation. So we've been told just to say, look, just tuck your shirt for me, please. As you walk past, fantastic, looking smart, excellent, well done. Or blazer on, don't forget before you get to the next lesson. And so I get why we have to address uniform, but of course there's appropriate way to do it, and the way that child was
Yeah.
dealt with, so to speak, was not appropriate.
So, I mean, I have slight issues with uniform, and there is arguments for and against, and I'm not completely like with me. The one thing is, what's the uniform of the teachers? Teachers aren't in uniform. They're not role modeling it. So why then are we expecting children to? How many of us then like, and why don't all adults have to go in suit and tie? If they choose to as part of the job and stuff like that, then that's the expectation of. But there's some ways I get it and some ways I don't, as far as uniform's concerned. I think especially when it comes to the like really hot weather and being forced to keep your blazer on and stuff like that. It's just there's elements of tradition doesn't necessarily mean good. And I think there is some schools that sometimes are steeped in kind of tradition and they're trying to hold on to that tradition, but that doesn't necessarily promote well-being. However, that's a different point. That's me soapboxing and kind of going, I really think it needs really evaluating. Is that the right thing and best interest for an education of a child? I get cohesion and community and stuff like that could all be quite positive for it, or also reducing the stress of comparison and stuff. So there is reasons and for and against. With the addressing, the big thing I have is that I think you're right. I don't ever want people to kind of misunderstand that I don't think there should be rules and boundaries, because life is filled with rules and boundaries and we need to making sure that individuals kind of are understanding them and following them. And kids feel safer with consistency and boundaries, but it's the way that we manage and encourage and enforce those boundaries, which is important. If somebody isn't following a boundary, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It may be a reason for it. Like, why do then kids not wear their uniform properly? Well, recognizing that it's because either it's really hot and they're uncomfortable, they're moving around, and therefore it's become become slightly disheveled because they've been doing activity, or whether it's a bit of a fashion thing within the because we have to do something to rebel against this system, and therefore we all do our tie the wrong way round, so the little bits at the bottom but then so the only kid who doesn't, is there a consistency across the board? And that's where, again, if some kids are allowed and some kids aren't, that creates that discord, and that peer pressure becomes an issue. So he's looking at why? Always a time, why aren't they engaged in uniform? Is it because it's stupid? Because it's boiling hot and therefore they're uncomfortable and overwhelmed, and we'd do the same if we were adults? Or is it because it's a fashion thing, it's a cultural thing, we need to address that, we need to manage it? That would be a big part. Second thing is exactly as you said, it's how we address it. And what I've encountered, and I'm sure you've encountered as well, there's a big difference between passive behavior, aggressive behavior, and assertive behavior. And assertive behavior is recognizing the individual rights or the rules of the organization, but also recognizing the other person's kind of right to an opinion and thoughts and experience. So, like when let's say somebody's speaking rudely to me, if I deal with that aggressively, that would be, don't you talk to me like that. That'd be aggressive. Passive would just be letting them talk to me like that. Neither of those are appropriate, because one is kind of basically giving permission to behavior. And one is, well, if I'm going to be aggressive, surely then I'm giving you permission to be aggressive back. Whereas assertion is kind of going, look, I understand you're upset and maybe feeling angry, but you don't need to speak to me like that. And that's a big difference. And I think exactly as you said there, the way that sometimes teachers specifically, but all people sometimes address behavior is they react and they go aggressively. They challenge rather than go in and kind of go, hey, this is one of the rules. I understand it may be a bit hot, but you need to follow this particular rule. It's like the kid who turns up late to class, isn't it? Right? Is it the teacher then going, what time do you call this? Which is aggressive. Or not saying anything, which means because they're not saying anything, they're giving permission for every other kid in the class to actually turn up late. Or are they managing it assertively, which is a case of saying to the whole group, just as a reminder, everybody, the lesson starts at 9 and you should be sat at your desk at 9 o'clock. Not directing it to that one kid, not personalizing it, not belittling them, not humiliating them or anything like that. But then maybe going over to them in the break and just going, I just wanted to check everything's okay. Would you mind just sticking around at the end? Because what I should be doing is not condemning them, just going, I noticed you're a little bit late. Is everything all right? Because I should still be being a detective rather than a judge. It could have been something going on. And any adult has made that mistake where we've told somebody off for something and then found out because something really bad's happened. Like, you shouldn't be late. And then find out, yeah, that's because their granddad died this morning. They're a bit upset. And then going, oh, no, I feel bad. Well, why didn't you wait? And before you made that action, you should have responded first. It could have been that. It could have been this. Yeah, that's so boundaries, I think, are really important. But it's the way that those boundaries, it's the behavior of the adult, not the behavior of the child that we're necessarily addressing. We need to address behavior as far as rules, but if I'm being aggressive and telling you off and belittling, well, then shouldn't the child have a right to do that to you? Why are we better than them? Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behavior that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behavior can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later, wishing for an umbrella. What if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature, and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict, and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience, and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities, or dementia. Build better connections, achieve de-escalation, and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today.